God is still writing your story. You may not like the chapter you're in right now. It might feel dark, painful, confusing. Maybe you've been betrayed. Maybe you lost something that meant the world to you. Maybe you're standing in a season that makes no sense at all. But hear me today. That is not the end of your story. That is not the final page. You are still breathing, which means God is still writing. See, too many people give up in the middle. They judge the entire book by a single chapter. But just because the chapter is full of struggle doesn't mean the whole story is about pain. Some of the best plots take the longest to unfold. Sometimes, the biggest blessings are hidden behind the hardest battles. And just because you don't see it coming doesn't mean He's not preparing it for you. Sometimes we get so caught up in where we are that we forget it's not where we're going to stay. Life has a funny way of making today feel like forever, especially when things aren't going right. When your money's tight, when the doors won't open, when people walk away, it's easy to believe that this is all your life will ever be. But I want you to understand something deep today. Your current chapter is not the end of your story. Just because you're in a low place right now doesn't mean that's where you're going to stay. It's just a chapter. And every great story has moments of tension, moments of struggle, moments when it feels like all hope is gone. But that's not the end. That's just the setup for what's next. Think about your favorite movie or book. The hero never has a smooth ride. There's always a point when it seems like all is lost, when it looks like they can't possibly win. But then something shifts, something happens, the story turns. Why? Because the story wasn't over. That's how your life works too. You're in a chapter right now, and maybe it's the messy one. Maybe it's the confusing one, the heartbreaking one, the one you wish you could just skip. But this chapter is doing something. It's building you. It's preparing you. It's making you stronger for what's coming next. And don't fall for the lie that this is where you'll always be. Just because you're broke today doesn't mean you'll be broke forever. Just because you're alone right now doesn't mean love isn't in your future. Just because the business hasn't worked yet doesn't mean success isn't ahead. You're not finished. You're not forgotten. You're just in process. And God, the author of your life, is still writing. He's not done. He hasn't put the pen down. He hasn't closed the book. He's still working behind the scenes, arranging things you can't see, preparing opportunities you haven't imagined, aligning people who will walk with you into the next season. But you've got to stay in the story. You've got to keep turning the page. Too many people give up in the middle of the book. They assume the pain is permanent. They let a temporary chapter define their permanent identity. Don't do that. Don't let where you are convince you that there's nothing more. You are not stuck. You are not done. You are not defeated. You are in transition. And transitions are messy. They are uncomfortable. They stretch you. But they also position you for transformation. There is beauty coming. There is purpose rising. And there is more to your story than what you're living right now. You may not understand the chapter you're in, but that's okay. The most powerful parts of your story are often the ones you didn't plan. They're the ones that showed you how strong you are. They're the ones that revealed your resilience. They're the ones that made you grow. And in time, you'll look back on this chapter and realize it wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something better. So take a breath, wipe your tears, and remind yourself that the story isn't over. Not yet. Not by a long shot. When it feels like nothing is working, like you're giving your all and getting nothing in return, Like life is handing out blessings to everybody except you. That's when doubt starts to whisper. It says, maybe this is all there is for you. It says, you're not good enough. It says, stop trying because nothing's ever going to change. And if you're not careful, you'll start listening to those lies. You'll start agreeing with them. You'll start settling in a place you were only meant to pass through. But here's the truth. Just because your current situation is silent doesn't mean you've been rejected. Just because it's delayed doesn't mean it's denied. God's timing is not our timing. What you think is a pause might just be preparation. And in those quiet moments, in those seasons when the spotlight disappears and you feel invisible, that's when you're actually being developed. That's when your strength is growing. That's when your character is being shaped. Because if everything came easy, you wouldn't know how to handle the success you're praying for. If you skip the process, you'd miss the lesson that sustains the promise. There's something powerful about being in the waiting room of life. It's uncomfortable, yes. It's confusing. But it also humbles you. It teaches you to depend not on applause, not on people, not on external validation, but on something deeper, something unshakable. Because when you learn to believe, even when you can't see it, that's faith. That's the foundation that will carry you when storms come, and storms will come. Life is not about avoiding them. It's about learning how to stand through them. You see, this part of the journey, the silent part, the waiting part, is sacred. It's the space where you find out who you really are, not who people say you are, not who the world says you should be, but who you've been created to become. And becoming takes time. It takes setbacks. It takes rejection. It takes long nights of wondering. Why not me? But what you don't see is that every no is pointing you closer to the right yes. Every closed door is pushing you in the direction of the one that's meant for you. Every delay is a setup for something greater than you imagined. And I know it's hard to believe when all you see is struggle. I know it's easy to grow weary when your prayers feel unanswered. But just because you don't see the fruit yet doesn't mean the seed you planted isn't growing. It's underground, it's hidden, but it's working. Something is moving. And when it finally breaks through the surface, when it finally blossoms, it will be worth every tear, every sleepless night, every time you almost gave up. So keep showing up. Keep trusting the author of your story. Because the silence you feel now is not a sign of absence. It's a sign of strategy, a divine setup. And when the time is right, everything will fall into place. Not because you forced it, not because you chased it, but because you stayed faithful when it made no sense to be. That's what separates those who make it from those who don't. The ones who make it, they endure the silence. They endure the confusion. And when the breakthrough finally comes, they can handle it because they were built in the dark. The hardest thing to do in life is to keep moving forward when nothing seems to be working, when the doors don't open, when the opportunities slip through your fingers, when you're doing everything right, being kind, showing up, praying, working hard, and still nothing changes. That's when most people give up, not because they're weak, but because it's exhausting to keep believing in a future you can't see. But what if I told you that those moments, those empty, silent, frustrating moments, are exactly when your story is being written the most? See, everybody loves the mountaintop, but nobody talks about the climb. Nobody posts the struggle, the tears, the confusion, the seasons of isolation. But that's where strength is forged. That's where faith becomes real. That's where resilience is born. You don't learn who you are when everything is going right. You find out who you are when everything goes wrong. When you have to push through disappointment, face rejection, keep trusting when all logic says to quit. That's where you become unshakable. And let me tell you something real. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. You're not stuck. You're being sharpened. That pain you're carrying, that frustration you keep shoving down, it's not for nothing. It's building something in you. Something strong, something solid. Because the future you're asking for requires a version of you that's stronger than you are right now. It needs you to level up emotionally, spiritually, mentally. And that only happens through struggle. You may feel invisible, like the world passed you by. You may feel like your gifts are being wasted, your talents ignored. But you're not forgotten. You're hidden, and there's a difference. Seeds grow in the dark, not in the spotlight. And while you think nothing's happening, everything is happening underneath. Growth isn't loud. It's slow, it's quiet, it's deliberate. But when it breaks through, people will call it sudden. They'll call it overnight success. But you'll know the truth. You'll know the tears behind the smile, the nights you almost gave up, the moments you kept going when quitting would have been easier. That's what this journey is about. It's not about instant results. It's about learning how to keep walking through the desert when you don't know how long it'll last. It's about staying faithful with little before you're trusted with more. It's about becoming so rooted in purpose that even when the wind blows, even when life hits hard, you don't break. So if you're in that silent season where it feels like nothing is moving, like the heavens are closed and time is running out, don't you dare think this is the end. This is the middle, the building ground, the preparation phase. And if you hold on, if you keep showing up, if you keep watering your seed with discipline and faith, something powerful will grow from it. Not just a breakthrough, but a testimony. A story that reminds others that yes, it's possible. That yes, you can come back from anything. That yes, you're never too far gone, never too late, and never overlooked in the eyes of the one who's writing your story. You're not waiting in vain. You're just being molded for something bigger than you expected. Stay the course. Keep the faith. You're closer than you think. Sometimes the hardest thing to understand is why you keep losing people along the way. Why the ones you thought would always be in your corner suddenly disappear. Why the folks who used to cheer you on fall silent the moment you start dreaming bigger. It hurts. It confuses you. But I need you to know, it's not always rejection. It's redirection. It's not betrayal, it's revelation. Sometimes God has to clear your circle before He blesses your life, because not everyone is meant to go where you're headed. When you're chosen, your path is different. It's not crowded. It's not always celebrated. In fact, it's often lonely. That's because elevation requires separation. You can't carry people who refuse to climb. You can't drag folks into your future who are committed to their past. There are people in your life who love the old version of you, the one who stayed small to keep them comfortable. But the moment you start stepping into your purpose, they get uncomfortable. They feel exposed. They say you've changed. But growth looks like change. Transformation doesn't ask for permission. And listen, it's okay to outgrow some people. It doesn't mean you're better than them. It means you're moving forward. You can love people and still leave them. You can honor the role they played in your life and still understand that their chapter is over. The mistake most people make is trying to take everybody with them into the next season. But some folks are seasonal, not lifelong. They were there to teach you something, to show you something, but not to walk with you forever. You've got to get comfortable with being misunderstood. Because when you're chasing destiny, you won't always be clapped for. Sometimes the people closest to you will question your sanity. They'll say your dreams are too big, your goals are unrealistic. They'll tell you to be practical, to play it safe. But they don't see what you see. They weren't given your vision. So don't shrink yourself to fit into a world you've already outgrown. Don't dim your light just to make others feel better in their darkness. Let me say this plain. You don't need everyone's approval to move forward. Stop waiting for support from people who don't believe in themselves. If you're constantly trying to prove your worth to them, you've already forgotten it. Real support doesn't have to be begged for. Real love doesn't guilt you for growing. And real friends don't hold you back. They push you forward, even if it means they have to love you from a distance. Your future is too important to delay for people who won't grow. Your purpose is too great to be paused because someone else is stuck. You've got to be willing to walk alone for a season if it means reaching the promise. You've got to stop asking for directions from people who've never been where you're going. And you've got to stop trying to save people who don't want to be saved. That's not your job. Your job is to keep walking, to keep building, to keep believing. Because one day, the very people who doubted you, who laughed at you, who left you will watch you rise. They'll see the favor, the fruit, the success, and they'll know you didn't get there because of them. You got there in spite of them. You didn't carry everyone, but you carried yourself, and that was enough. Keep walking, keep growing. Everyone can't go with you, but the ones who are meant to, they'll catch up. You got to stop looking for confirmation from people who don't understand your calling. That's one of the biggest mistakes you can make on your journey. Waiting for someone else to agree with your purpose before you take the first step. Let me tell you something real. If you keep looking for everybody's approval, you'll delay your assignment and you'll miss out on the very thing God has placed inside of you. Everybody ain't gonna see it. Everybody ain't gonna feel it. And everybody ain't supposed to. When a seed gets planted, it don't look like much. Matter of fact, to most people, it just looks like dirt. But the person who planted it knows what's coming. That seed don't need applause. It don't need recognition. It needs time. It needs water. It needs light. And most of all, it needs patience. Your dream is the same way. Don't expect everybody to understand it just because you do. Don't be surprised when they tell you you're doing too much or you're dreaming too big. That's their limitation, not yours. The truth is, people only support what they can relate to. If your vision is too big for their mindset, they'll reject it. Not because it's wrong, but because it threatens their comfort zone. See, when you start to grow, when you start to change, it exposes the fact that they've been standing still. And nobody likes to be reminded that they could have done more, but didn't. So they'll try to clip your wings before you take off, not realizing you were born to fly. But let me remind you, God didn't put that vision in them. He put it in you. He didn't whisper that idea to a crowd. He whispered it to your spirit. You felt it at 2 a.m. when nobody else was awake. You carried it through tears, through failure, through loneliness. That dream is yours. So stop asking people for permission to live what was already promised to you. You don't need the whole world behind you to make progress. All you need is faith the size of a mustard seed and the courage to keep showing up. People might laugh at you. Let them. They laughed at the Wright brothers too, until we started flying in planes. They laughed at Oprah until she owned her own network. They laughed at every dreamer who ever dared to step outside the norm. But those same people who laughed, they're the ones clapping later, watching from the sidelines as you lived the life they said was impossible. And here's the key: you've got to move even when it don't make sense. You've got to trust even when the numbers don't add up. You've got to believe even when the people around you stop believing in you. Because the breakthrough always shows up after the breakdown. The blessing always comes after the test. And success, it shows up for the ones who keep going, not for the ones who wait to be validated. Stop trying to get people to see what only faith can reveal. Stop holding back just because your circle is small or your support is silent. That's not what determines your worth. Your consistency does. Your hunger does. Your refusal to quit does. The real ones will recognize you eventually. The right doors will open. And the people who were meant to run with you, they'll show up when it's time. Until then, keep grinding. Keep moving. And most of all, keep trusting the gift that was placed inside of you. Because you were never meant to blend in. You were born to stand out, even if they don't believe in you right now. Sometimes the delay is the preparation. You sitting there wondering why it hasn't happened yet. Why the breakthrough is still around the corner. Why the opportunity still feels out of reach. And the truth is, you're being made ready for what you prayed for. God's not ignoring you. He's not punishing you. He's preparing you. See, we always want the destination, but we rarely want the process. But that process is where the greatness gets built. That delay, that's your training ground. You can't step into a life you're not prepared to carry. That dream you've been holding on to, it comes with weight. It comes with pressure. It comes with responsibility. And if you step into it too early, before your character is ready, you'll lose what you begged God to give you. So what does He do? He delays it. Not to deny you, but to develop you. Not to frustrate you, but to fortify you. So that when you finally get it, you can keep it. Let me tell you, there's something powerful about the valley. Everybody wants to live on the mountaintop, but nothing grows up there. The valley is where your roots dig deep. It's where you learn patience, discipline, and gratitude. That's where you learn to hear God clearly, because the noise of the world gets stripped away. And you start to understand that the wait is not wasted. Every second of silence, every moment of not yet, is building something inside of you that success will require. You can't cheat the process. There are lessons that can't be learned from comfort. There's wisdom that doesn't come from success. It comes from struggle, from setbacks, from being told no, from getting up when you feel like giving up. That's when your faith gets tested. That's when your mindset gets sharpened. That's when your grind becomes consistent. And that's what makes you unstoppable when the moment finally arrives. People want the promise, but they don't want the process. They want the spotlight, but they don't want to be molded in the dark. Let me tell you something. Every blessing that's coming your way, you've got to be prepared to hold it. God's not going to give you something that you'll mismanage, because that would destroy you. So when it feels like you're stuck, like you're going in circles, understand, He's still writing, He's still building, and most of all, He's protecting the version of you that's on the way. So while you wait, don't sit idle. Build your habits, sharpen your skills, learn how to lead yourself before you try to lead others. Grow into the kind of person who doesn't need applause to stay motivated. Get so rooted in your purpose that when the world shakes, you don't break. That's what the delay is doing. It's building your foundation. And let me remind you, What God has for you, no delay can cancel. No detour can delete. No hater can block. If He said it's yours, it's already done. Your job is to keep showing up. Keep believing. Keep becoming. Because one day, and it'll happen quicker than you expect, the door is going to swing open. The phone is going to ring. The opportunity is going to fall in your lap, and you'll be ready. Not lucky, ready. You'll look back and realize that everything you thought was a delay was actually divine alignment. That every not yet was Him saying, hold on, I'm still working on you. That's when the tears make sense. That's when the pain feels worth it. Because you didn't skip the process. You trusted it. And because of that, when it's your time, nothing and nobody will be able to stop what's already written. Keep walking with faith. Keep showing up. Keep growing. Because when the time is right, and I promise you the time will come, everything you've cried for, worked for, and prayed for is going to fall right into place. Not a moment too soon, not a second too late, but right on time. You just hold on. Don't give up now. You're closer than you think. God is still writing your story, and the best chapters haven't even been read yet.